get it. All this aggravation for what? The Masons?
Yes. We are talking I Am Vengeance, also known as simply Vengeance. This one is written and directed by Rusk, who actually directed a movie called Warrioress, which I reviewed on this very channel, which you can go and check out. And this one stars Gary Daniels, a personal favourite action hero of mine. You've also got a kind of cameo appearance from Keith Allen, father of Lily Allen, and quite famous kind of British comedian. And you've also got Stu Bennett here. Now, if that name doesn't sound familiar to you, you may know him better as Wade Barrett from the WWE Wrestling. So here he is in a kind of a lower budget kind of action martial arts movie set in the UK. Now, this is going to sound a little weird. I would most compare this film as a kind of martial arts version of Hot Fuzz, but minus the comedy. Sound kind of weird? Well, let me explain. So the story here is set in this kind of like English village. Now, these are kind of, I guess, if you've seen Hot Fuzz, it's that sort of small little town kind of village, small community. And it's been besieged by these kind of ex-military vets, led by Gary Daniels' character, who have come into possession of a great load of drugs, basically. And they are working out of this village, sort of taking over the kind of the local operation, and ultimately using it as a kind of a base of operations to obviously set up this kind of illegal business. And because they are former military, they've essentially dominated this small village. And it's up to Stu Bennett's character, who is seeking revenge after they kill a former colleague of his, to take down this kind of rogue kind of criminal cell that's kind of sprung out of nowhere, apparently. You've also got the added complication of maybe some type of shady kind of government operation kind of keeping an eye on Stu Bennett's character. It's not really explained properly, but we'll come on to it. So what do we think about this movie then, eh? So, like I said, I'm a personal fan of Gary Daniels. I enjoy most of his films, and here he plays a bad guy, which is all nice to see. He's even sporting a cool porn star mustache in a la Henry Cavill from the Mission Impossible movie. So, yes, I like it. I like Gary Daniels in this film. The main thing for me that I kind of enjoyed about this movie was the fight scenes. Now, if you're watching this movie, you're expected to see some decent martial arts, some decent kind of choreography and fight scenes, and it doesn't disappoint. The actual, when we see our kind of hand-to-hand combat on here, it is very well shot, it's very well choreographed, and very well edited with sound effects and stuff like that. I thought they were really good. So, you know, when you basically, someone is throwing a punch and they're using the kind of the acting, the editing and the sound effects, it really feels like they're kind of landing, and it looks really good. So I really enjoyed the that aspect of this movie, the kind of the variety of different sort of fighting scenes, and also it's a variety of styles, which I also quite like. So Gary Daniels, you know, he was a championship kickboxer in his day, so his style is going to be very different to some of the other characters, basically, who use more kind of like military tactics and stuff like that. So I actually quite like the kind of the mix of styles that you have here, and like I said, the action is all pretty good as well. So I actually quite like this kind of this little English village setting, going down the kind of the local pub and the kind of the local cafe. It makes, as a British person myself, it has this extra kind of layer of, oh, I've done that kind of, you know, that's very typical of kind of what English people kind of do, I would say. So that aspect of it I actually sort of quite liked as well. The movie's fairly well paced. I think it's, you know, it's quite kind of a punchier movie with kind of lots of kind of action scenes. It doesn't keep you hanging on for too long for the next scene. And I actually quite like some of the characters, particularly some of the henchmen. You know, Gary Daniels' henchmen. Actually, I actually thought they seemed quite kind of fun in their own right as well, and almost like somewhat developed even. So there you go. Again, there is a negative with that one, so just put a pin in that for now. So what doesn't work? Okay, So we have to say it, we have to call a spade a spade. Some of the acting here is kind of atrocious. So not from everyone, but there are cast members here who really are struggling to deliver a believable line. You know, from extras to kind of more, you know, seasoned players, shall we say. But it's just a little bit kind of noticeable here and there with certain sort of characters. So it's a little bit kind of, gets a bit grating, I've got to say, to be honest. Also, there's some just silly logic issues here. I mean, Stu Bennett's character kills loads and loads of people, but we don't even see a hint of the police. And, you know, it's kind of explained away that, oh, it's just a small little village, but England ain't that big. And if there's this amount of bodies dropping, you know, people are going to start to call the police and stuff like that. So that was just a little bit silly, I thought, and it's not even really addressed. We have this kind of subplot involving this kind of government agency, but it just seems to be tacked on. One thing I forgot to mention actually in the positives here, the final showdown between Gary Daniels' character and Stu Bennett's character, I like the way that ended, because it kind of does something maybe a little different from what you'd expect, and I actually thought that was quite original. So that bit I quite liked. But this movie is just full of just dumb things, basically. It just isn't particularly a cerebral movie. Like I've said, there's just no sign of the police here. People just seem to be kind of wandering around, beating the crap out of each other with kind of no repercussions. All the locals just seem to be kind of, you know, fine with it. And I struggle to believe that there's this big drug ring in this kind of this small little village, even before these kind of military guys got there. I mean, you might have the local, you know, guy selling some weed, but it just seems that there was like this huge drug operation in this small little English village, which I don't know, I find it hard to believe, even, you know, before we get to this huge kind of like almost industrial machine version of this drug cartel that kind of sets up shop. Just a little silly, if you ask me, particularly because there's no sign of the police. Overall, it's not a particularly original film either. It's just a kind of more or less a man on a kind of a revenge movie, which, to be honest with you, I didn't really feel the connection between Stu Bennett's character and his kind of friend. It's not particularly well established, so you don't know why really. You don't feel it's a justifiable enough reason to kind of go on this killing spree ultimately. So overall, it's actually, you know, it's quite a lot of fun. You know, I did have fun with this movie. I enjoyed the characters. But it's just a little bit silly. I mean, we're told that we have like a Gary Daniels' gang are all these military guys, and there's Stu Bennett's looking at this kind of like these bios of all his men. There's like 4 of them, but when he gets there, there's about 20, and it's like, well, where are the bios for the rest of them? And they're just like, who are these people? You know, we're told that there's like 5 guys that follow him, and there's all these other ones that suddenly appear. Cannon fodder. So yeah, it's a little silly, but worth a watch if you're a kind of a B-movie kind of martial arts fan, because the martial arts is very good. Have you seen it? What do you think of it? Leave me a comment, and I shall look forward to seeing you next time. Bye for now.